say fell silent in our minds as we run the race to only fall behind in the bitter waste. Alright, I wanted to do a quick video on the Behringer X-Touch, using it with Sonar, Cakewalk Sonar, and that's going to go for X1, X2, X3, Sonar Platinum, Sonar Artist, everything from X1 and forward I believe this will work with. The reason I wanted to do this video, I bought the X-Touch and in the beginning had a lot of issues getting it to work correctly, and went to a lot of different forums and saw a lot of comments from a lot of different people, and people were pretty angry. They wanted this to work well with Sonar, and nobody believed that it did. Through my research, what I found out was that it works perfectly with Sonar. It's just you have to know how to set it up and what to do to get it to work with Sonar. It uses Mackie control protocol as well as Huey, but in Sonar most people are going to set it up as a Mackie control surface. So I'm going to walk you through setting it up. I'm going to walk you through using it and getting all the buttons to work, not just the out-of-the-box faders and volume pots and things of that nature. And we're going to deep dive into it, and I hope this helps. I mean, I pulled my hair out trying to figure out everything, and found a lot of resources and a lot of people on forums that really helped, and I'm going to give plugs to those guys as well. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing I want to show you is where you go to get the Getting Started guide, because that's where you're going to start at, in the Getting Started guide. So you go to Behringer's site, which is musicgroup.com in Behringer. So let me go back one more. I just search Behringer and it comes up here, Behringer homepage. So I'm there. So I click on the support tab. When I go there, you're already in Behringer's site. If you're not and you're just on Music Group's site, you see where it says Midas, Clark, Technic, and Turbo Sound. You'll have one here that says Behringer. Just click it and it'll get you to where you need to go. You go to the Downloads tab here, click that. The category you're going to look at is computer audio. You're going to look at desktop controllers and whichever X-Touch you have. The Touch, the Mini, or the Compact. I actually have the X-Touch. I'm going to go to documentation. I'm going to go to quick start guide, and then I'm going to click the all languages, which will download it, which I've already done. So I'm going to show you where you need to go to in the Getting Started guide is in part 3, which is the configuration and the software setup. So very first thing you're going to do, you're going to press and hold down the channel 1 select button on the X-Touch, which is going to be this button right here, and you're going to turn the unit on while you're holding that down. Okay, so when you do, these encoders up here are going to light up. The first two are, and encoder 1 is going to allow you to change the emulation mode between Huey, Mackie control, or whatever other mode you're going to use. Then you'll rotate encoder 2 to select the interface you're using. Most people, I'm guessing, are going to be setting this up as a USB interface, so you would choose USB there. And if you're using it for MIDI, you would select MIDI or network for network. But I'm actually using it as USB interface, so there you go. Encoder 8 adjusts the contrast of the scribble strips on the screen. And this is very important, and a lot of people miss this. After you get your settings in there, you need to press the channel 1 select button again, right here, to save all the settings and the changes that you've made. Once you've done that, you can power off the system, and you're good to go with the setup. Go ahead and plug in your USB cable at that point, or however you're connecting it, and connect it to your system. Alright, so now what you're going to want to do is you want to go in and go ahead and turn on your X-Touch. Don't start Sonar yet. You want to actually turn this on first. So when I turn it on, you'll see the faders will jump to down to 0. Nothing's controlling it. So with the motorized faders, it just
defaults down. Okay. Now that that's turned on, we're going to go ahead and open up Sonar Platinum. And I'm going to not open a project at this point. I'm going to go to Edit, and I'm going to go to Preferences. And you want to go in here to Devices, and you want to make sure that the X-Touch has a check mark in the box for the input and the output. As you can see it right there. X-Touch and X-Touch, and then whatever other devices you have you can keep in there as well. After you do that, you want to go to Control Surfaces, and I've already put it in here on this one, but how you do that, how you add it as a control surface, you click on the Add New Controller Surface button. You don't want it to be ACT, you want it to be just straight Mackie control, not Mackie XT or C4, just straight Mackie control. You want your input port to be X-Touch, you want your output port to be X-Touch. You click on this tab here and you make sure that your input and output port are X-Touch. Now, the reason I have Impulse and in there as well is because I have my Novation Impulse 49 connected daisy chained to the X-Touch control surface. So for some reason it wanted that in there, so I put it in there. But anyway, that's how you add it, and once you add it, you click OK, of course, and you're good to go. And it's going to come up in here and it's going to show you it as a control surface. You click Apply and then it's in, right? So I'm going to cancel out of that for now. So now that we have it in, let's go ahead and let's do a new. Well, actually, I'm gonna close this and launch it again from the Start splash screen for Platinum. So I'll launch Platinum again, and I will do a new project. And there you go. Already out of the box, the faders jump up on the two tracks that are there to zero gain or unity gain. So it's working. That functionality was working straight out of the box. You don't have to do anything to make the faders work. To prove the point, I'll move this fader and watch track 1 here in Sonar. Bam, bam, faders work. One step further, if you look up here at track 1, if I want to mute, solo the track, there's mute, there's solo, chord arm the track, all of that works right out of the box. Panning as well, so we move this up, pan it left, pan it right, and that works for every single input that's there. So what was not working out of the box? Oh, one more thing that worked directly out of the box. Play, stop, the jog wheel, rewind, fast forward, record, all of that worked straight out of the box. There were some things that weren't working out of the box, which are all of these buttons. And come to find out, they actually were working. They're just labeled for something other than what Sonar sees them as. So with Mackie Control Protocol, every single DAW looks at the Mackie Control Protocol differently. So out of the box, the Behringer X-Touch with its labels on these buttons match up to a completely different DAW. And you see when you go in, all of Behringer's videos show you Behringer working with a DAW other than Sonar. They use one DAW, and I think it's Reaper, or it's one of them, I don't remember which one it's, but they're always showing all their videos on that one DAW. Well, that's because all of the buttons from the factory are labeled correctly for that DAW. They don't have overlays yet that you can put on them. However, there are overlays out there that you can get. So that's my next point I want to show you. So I'm going to minimize that for now. I'm going to go back here and show you where you can get the overlay that I have here. And let me see if I can zoom in on it without jumping the camera too much. But the overlay that I have on it, I know that's not a good view of it, and we'll zoom in and do some closer looks at it later, but you get the point. I did not make that overlay, so I found that overlay, and where I found it at was on Behringer's site. So I went back in and I, got to looking around for everything and couldn't find what I needed to find. Did the same thing, went to Behringer, went to support, and then I went to community. And then when I jumped into community, actually that's not where I went. I went to the forums, right? So, let me back up here. Welcome to support. See, there's Behringer. I went to community down here, which will take you to the forums. So, you click on community, you come in here and you have forums, and you have this search box right here. So if you type in X-Touch and then Sonar and hit search, here's what you'll find. X-Touch is Sonar, started by Mary S. Bowens. The last post was by Kevin Vandenberg. Okay, so if you click there, everybody in this forum was, saying, hey, it doesn't work, it doesn't work, it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if you go to page 2, you'll find someone come up with a really intelligent answer, and it's at the very bottom of the page. And I want to give a big, big thank you to Kevin Vandenberg. Don't know who he is, have no clue, never talked to the guy. But he breaks it down really nice here. He went through the trouble to actually print out an overlay, or actually create an overlay that you can put over the top over here to relabel the buttons. All you have to do is download this file, and it's the X-Touch Sonar Overlay PDF that Mr. Vandenberg made. It's the perfect, he's got it sized perfect and everything. Now, myself, I did a crappy job cutting it out. You actually have to cut it out, but I was in a hurry and, didn't take my time. But I cut it out and used a couple of pieces of tape to hold it on there. I'm sure you can do a much better job than I did at cutting it out and getting it on there. But you'll see how crucial this is once we get on into it. Okay, so yes, that's where you go to get that from Mr. Vandenberg. So now I'll go back into Sonar, and I'll show you another thing that you need to be aware of. So out of the box, you'll find that touching a fader out of the box doesn't select the track, but mine does, because I went in and changed some settings. You see, when I touch track 1 lights up. When I touch track 2 lights up. So this is where you go to do that. Mackie Control Protocol has a built-in plug-in control window that you can get to that allows you to change some parameters. So if you go to where your control surface is, oh, and by the way, if Mackie Control is not listed here, hit the drop down arrow. Because of the steps we took earlier, it should be listed there. So you want that the one to be chosen. So if I click here, that'll take me to the controller surface properties. And that'll bring up this page. Now this is where it gets really interesting. You'll see a bunch of forums and a lot of people saying, well, there's pretty detailed information about the Mackie Control Protocol in Sonar. Well, I was like, cool. So the first place I went to was Sonar's help button up here and went through all the online. I spent hours in online help looking for different things on Mackie Control Protocol. That's not where you go look at. Look at the bottom of this plugin. Press F1 for help. If you press F1 on your keyboard, this pops up. And this was what really made it all make sense for me. So this is the help menu for the Mackie Control Surface, right? If you go in here and you click Working with the Mackie Control, it breaks down into all these different things that it shows you how to do. The only way these things work is with that overlay labeling the buttons correctly, right? So once you put it all together, it's like everything works. Wow, this is cool. we're going to get into all that here in a minute. First, I want to show you some of the things that aren't turned on. See the checkbox here that says Fader Touch Selects Channel? It was not turned on. I had to actually go in and put the check mark there. Select Highlights Track was not turned on either. When I first plugged in the X-Touch, none of the meters, none of the LED meters or the scribble strips worked. So this was turned off. You actually have to tell it signal LED and meters. So once you do all that, it's good. Another thing that's really interesting, the master fader from default is set at master and at 1. So me thinking common sense, if it's set at master, that means it's going to control this fader right here. No, when it's set at master, it controls your master outs, which are over here, which I set at a level, and I usually don't use those because I have external controls, volume controls on my audio interface as well as my powered speakers. So I wanted it to control my master fader. So you change it to bus, which if you think about it, it actually does make sense. It means that your master fader is going to control the master bus. And it's labeled 1, 2, 3. You see I've got 3 here, so 1 is going to be master. So in fact, if I touch the master over here, I am controlling, as you see right there, the master fader on the bus, not this over here. And just to show you, I'll change it to master. Now watch. You see? So yeah, that was a little tricky. So yeah, there you go. Back to the bus. So you can switch it back and forth if you want to. The other thing you have in here are programmable function keys. Alright, so the function keys as they sit on the block up here are just that without pressing another button. All of these, this row of buttons right here, and I'll zoom in on it when we start actually working with them, handles what's listed here, but all these can be changed. So if I press F1, I'm going to see a browser. If I press F2, I'm going to look at loop construction, which doesn't really come up. So right out of the bat, I changed that, and I actually changed that to track view, and I'll change it here. I don't know why it didn't save it, but I'll have to figure that out. But if I go to views and I go to track view, now when I touch that one, it'll get me into track view, and the rest of them I pretty much left the same. So that's that. Also, the resolution of the jog wheel. When I turn the jog wheel, I'm going 1 full measure. I can change that to go by beats. So if you're in a 4/4, it'll give you every single beat between the measures. Or if you're wanting ticks, which is the, the 120, 280, all that jazz, whatever it is, it'll do that as well. Transport resolution is the same, but what that means is the transport buttons, which are the stop, play, fast forward, rewind. When you push fast forward and rewind, that'll make those move at a measure, a beat, or a tick, whichever one you have selected. Also, the time format I have measures beats and ticks. You can change that to hours, minutes, seconds, and frames up here on the display. It'll change it. Okay. So that's all that. We'll go ahead and X out of that. And we're going to jump deeper into what you can do. Again, I can roll like that. Everything like that works pretty well. First, I'm going to show you those function keys, right? So I'm going to press F1. F1, as you see, got rid of my browser. Should be over here. So that's what that key was assigned to. The browser's gone. F2, remember I changed that to track view. There you go. F3 goes back to console. F4 pulls up the events list. F5 pulls up my piano roll. F6 pulls up my video if I'm working in video. F7 pulls up the staff view. And F8 pulls up my lyrics pane. So all of my function buttons work as they're intended to go. So There you go. That's that. So let's take a look at something else. So I want to add tracks, right? And again, remember, when you put this overlay over, these buttons will be labeled correctly. And I'm going to try to zoom down on this so you can see this. Let's see what I can do here. It's at a little bit of a goofy angle, but see, that says new audio and new MIDI, right? So I want to add an audio track. I'm going to pull this down where you can actually see it. I want to add a new audio track. Press it, new audio track comes in. Press it again, another new audio track. So many times I want to press it, I can bring in audio tracks. And for the sake of being able to see how the faders flip back and forth, I'm just going to put 16 in here, okay? So let me zoom back out here. I've got it all tilted up now. There we go. Alright, so now I've got 16 audio tracks. So then you say, okay, so I know that, well, let me show you, let me go back to the console view, and again, I'll do that by pressing F2. No, track view is F2, F3 is console view, right? So I brought my console back up. I'll bring this up where you can actually see the console. And again, I can set that to where it's actually a meter's view where it just shows the console. All those F function keys I can set to whatever view I want, but I wanted to show you how this works. Alright, so I go in, and you notice when I touch the track, it automatically highlights that track. But say I'm going to move my fader down on track 4, move my track 5 fader, jack my track 6 fader all the way up, 7 all the way down. I'm going to come over here at 1 and I'm going to put it all the way down. So now I've got all those, right? Well, let me move 8 just so I've moved them all. So now how do I get to track 9? What do I do? I mean, you know, I've got 8 faders, I've got 16 tracks. What do I do? Pretty easy. I'm going to try to zoom this in again. Readjust this. I don't know if you can see those buttons there, but this row of buttons right here says fader bank. This row says channel. If I want to move to the complete next bank of channels, which is 9 through 16, I'll press that arrow. If I want to move back to 1 through 8, I press that arrow. And it doesn't matter how many tracks, you can just keep banking through. If you've got a 64 track project, just keep banking until you get to the right bank of channels that you want to be at. But I'm going to zoom back out because I'm going to show you when I do this what happens with the faders. I'll give it to you in that view like that. Alright, so okay, I'm moving to the next bank. Bam! Now I'm on the next bank of channels, all the faders are at 0 again. Now I can start manipulating. And again, notice when I went to track 15, it moved my screen view over to where that's within range for me to see. 16 as well. So it's always going to keep you on the selected track because of the settings that we've made. So pretty cool. All that's moved, all that's moved. Now I want to go back to the previous bank. I just bank over again, right? So now bank back, bank over, bank back, bank over, bank back, bank over, bank back. So everything's fine and good. Now when you go into doing automation, that's really cool because you can actually see the automation on the faders. Helps out a whole lot. Works out really, really, really well. So for the sake of keeping these videos short, I'm going to separate this into probably 2 to 3 separate videos. And I think this is a good stopping point on this one. So please check out video number 2 in the series. And what we're going to cover on it, we're going to dive even a little deeper in. We're going to go into how to set loops, how to punch record using the Behringer X-Touch. We're going to look at a lot of deeper functionality. please leave comments in the comments section if you have things to add. I can't take credit for this. I've done a lot of research, and most of the things I'm showing you I've found from research on different sites. I've already showed you one of them, but there's another that I've researched well, and there's a couple of guys I'm going to give credit to in the next video, because without seeing what they had gone through, I would have never been able to figure this out. So kudos to those guys. And again, that's why I say if you have something to add, a trick or a tip, please leave it in the comments section, and you know, help everybody. That's what we're putting it together for. Please subscribe to my channel if you like what you're seeing. Hit the like button. If you don't like it, hit the dislike button. Hope this is helping for you guys, and I'll see you on the next video.
In the bitter waste in our mistakes, we see our lives go